She left in the middle of the night with nothing but the clothes on her back, fleeing a marriage that had crushed her spirit and stolen her dreams. But when she walked into the boardroom 10 years later as the new owner of the company where her ex-husband had built his career, he never saw it coming. For a decade he told everyone she was worthless, that she'd never survive without him, that she'd come crawling back, begging for forgiveness, while he climbed the corporate ladder at one of the most prestigious tech firms in Silicon Valley. He thought he'd won when she disappeared without taking a penny from their divorce. But what he didn't know was that every insult, every humiliation had only fueled her determination to build something he could never imagine. And today, she was about to show him exactly what a worthless woman could accomplish. The glass towers of Nexus Technologies pierced the Seattle skyline, their reflective surfaces catching the morning sun. On the 42nd floor, Daniel Morrison adjusted his Italian tie and surveyed his domain. At 45, he had everything: the executive vice president title, the corner office, the respect that came with being CEO, Adrian Blackwood's right hand. His calendar showed all-hands meeting, 10 a.m., major announcement. Adrian hadn't mentioned anything during yesterday's golf game, but the CEO had seemed distracted. Patricia, his secretary, looked up as he passed. The meeting's been moved to the main auditorium. The auditorium. That venue was reserved for major announcements. Daniel took his usual executive section seat as Adrian approached the podium, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "Thank you for coming," Adrian began. "Nexus Technologies has been a leader in enterprise software for 2 decades, which makes what I'm about to announce so difficult." He paused. Effective immediately, Nexus Technologies has been acquired by Phoenix Global Enterprises. The room erupted. Daniel's mind raced. Phoenix Global. He'd never heard of them. How could some unknown company acquire Nexus? Phoenix Global is a Singapore-based conglomerate, Adrian continued. They've remained under the radar by design, but their portfolio is impressive. They've guaranteed all positions for 18 months. Daniel Googled rapidly on his phone. Phoenix Global's website revealed little. Privately held, founded 8 years ago, revenues in the billions. The leadership page showed only S. Chen, founder and CEO. "The new ownership visits next week," Adrian announced. "I expect full cooperation." As the meeting disbanded, Daniel remained seated, instincts screaming that this was more than a simple acquisition. He couldn't have imagined who would walk through those doors. The week passed in speculation and preparation. Daniel assured his team their positions were secure. After all, new ownership always needed experienced executives. He reviewed quarterly. Reports showing his division had exceeded targets by 23%. The board had called him ruthless but effective. Patricia knocked. "Mr. Morrison, facilities asks about executive floor preparations for the visit." "Everything should be immaculate. First impressions matter." Daniel's phone rang, his ex-wife calling about their son's tuition. He let it go to voicemail. Melissa had remarried some banker. Let him handle it. Daniel had more pressing concerns than his failed first marriage. He gazed out at the skyline, remembering earning this office 5 years ago. The memory triggered another, Chloe's face when he'd shown her his first promotion, back when they were married. She'd been so proud, talking about building something together. Daniel shook off the memory. Chloe was ancient history, 10 years ancient. The woman who'd left with just a note, abandoning their life because she needed to find herself. He'd told everyone she'd had a breakdown, unable to handle being married to a rising executive. The divorce was simple: abandonment. She'd taken nothing, asked for nothing, Probably ended up waitressing somewhere. His computer chimed with Patricia's email about Phoenix Global's executive team. The CFO from Goldman Sachs, the CTO from Samsung. But the CEO bio remained vague. S. Chen, founder, previous experience in various technology ventures. No photo, no background. As if she'd appeared from nowhere 8 years ago with enough capital to start acquiring companies. Adrian's assistant called. Urgent meeting. Daniel found Adrian staring out his window. They want detailed transition reports from all EVPs by Friday, Adrian said. Every project, every contract, every strategic initiative. That's standard for acquisitions. Adrian turned, strain evident on his face. This isn't standard, Dan. Phoenix Global knows things, details not in any disclosure documents, like they've been watching us for years. Be very careful next week. Daniel left with more questions than answers. Whatever games Phoenix Global was playing, Daniel Morrison had survived 15 years of corporate politics. He could handle one mysterious CEO. Monday morning arrived crisp and clear. Daniel reached Nexus early, finding the executive floor buzzing with activity. Maintenance polished already gleaming surfaces, while Patricia supervised fresh orchid arrangements. "They're here," she whispered. Phoenix Global's advance team arrived an hour ago. Setting up in the Pearl conference room, Daniel straightened his Hermes tie. "How many?" "6. Very professional. Very quiet. They declined breakfast, only requested green tea." "Interesting. Most advanced teams came in like conquering armies. This restraint was either supreme confidence or careful calculation." Through frosted glass, he glimpsed figures moving efficiently. A young woman emerged, sharp cheekbones, designer, glasses, nodding politely without stopping, heels clicking on marble. In his office, Daniel found his senior team assembled. Kevin Chen, VP of Strategic Initiatives, looked nervous. Maria Santos, Business Development, scrolled through her phone, frowning. James Worthington, Senior Director, sat rigid. "Talk to me," Daniel commanded. Kevin cleared his throat. "They're thorough. Requesting access to systems I didn't know existed. Legacy databases from 8 years ago." "They knew about Meridian," Maria added. "The deal that fell through in 2019. Asked specifically why we walked away." Daniel kept his expression neutral. The Meridian acquisition had been highly confidential. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing yet. Said I'd need to review files first." Maria met his eyes. "Dan, how do they know?" "Due diligence. Answer questions honestly, but don't volunteer information." James shifted. "That woman in the hall, Catherine Liu, used to work at Bayside Ventures." Daniel knew Bayside. They'd attempted a hostile takeover 5 years ago and failed. "Poaching talent from enemies, smart." "She didn't work for Bayside," James corrected. "She stopped them, convinced their board Nexus was a bad investment. The whole thing collapsed within weeks." Silence fell. Daniel felt pieces shifting but couldn't see the pattern. Everyone remained professional. Answer questions, provide documentation, flag anything unusual. Dismissed. His team filed out, leaving Daniel staring at the city. His phone buzzed. "Adrian. CEO arrives tomorrow. All EVPs required at 2 p.m. introduction." Tomorrow he'd finally meet S. Chen and understand what kind of person could build an empire from nothing in 8 years. He thought briefly of Chloe, how she'd left with nothing, not even the jewelry he'd bought her. By now she'd probably remarried, had kids with someone earning a regular paycheck. His computer chimed. "Kevin. They're asking about the Employee Relief Fund from 2015. Daniel's blood chilled. The relief fund had been his initiative, ostensibly helping laid-off workers but actually funneling money back to executive bonuses through vendor kickbacks. Technically legal, ethically. He called Kevin. "Tell them records were destroyed in the 2018 server migration." Hanging up, Daniel noticed his hands trembling slightly. He flexed his fingers, annoyed at the weakness. Phoenix Global was just another corporate entity, Chen just another CEO. He'd handled worse. That evening, Daniel reviewed his achievements. 15 years climbing from junior analyst to EVP. He remembered early days, working 18-hour days. Chloe used to wait up with dinner, believing in his ambition before understanding its cost. Tuesday morning dawned grey and drizzling. Daniel stood before his mirror, selecting his best suit. First impressions mattered when meeting someone who could determine his future. At the office, anticipation crackled. The executive floor gleamed, expensive coffee scenting the air. "Mr. Morrison," Patricia said. "Mr. Blackwood wants EVPs in the boardroom at 1:45. Through the boardroom's glass walls, he could see most had assembled. Adrian stood at the head, gesturing emphatically. At 1:40, Daniel joined his fellow EVPs. Adrian stood, yielding his usual spot. "Remember, we're all on the same team. Phoenix Global chose Nexus because of our value. They need us as much as we need them." The words rang hollow. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, they watched 3 black SUVs approaching in perfect formation. Patricia's voice came over the intercom. "Mr. Blackwood, Phoenix Global is on their way up." Daniel straightened his tie one final time. Around the table, colleagues made similar adjustments, smoothing hair, arranging portfolios, like actors preparing for the most important audition of their lives. The boardroom doors opened. Catherine, Lou entered first, followed by other Phoenix team members. They arranged themselves along one side, leaving space at center. "Ladies and gentlemen," Catherine announced, "I present Ms. Sarah Chen, Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix Global Enterprises." Daniel turned toward the door, practice smile ready, greeting rehearsed. And then his world stopped. The woman who entered wasn't the elderly Asian executive he'd imagined. She was tall, graceful, honey-colored hair in an elegant chignon. Her simple black dress somehow looked more expensive than any designer suit in the room. Her movements radiated confidence. But it was her eyes that made Daniel's blood freeze. Green eyes he'd last seen 10 years ago, filled with tears as she begged him to remember who they used to be. Chloe, his ex-wife, the failure who couldn't handle corporate life. She was Sarah Chen. And from the slight smile playing at her lips as her gaze swept the room and landed on him, she'd been planning this moment for a very long time. The boardroom fell silent as Sarah moved to center with practiced elegance. Daniel remained frozen, mind struggling to reconcile this powerful woman with memories of his soft-spoken ex-wife who'd preferred books to boardrooms. "Good afternoon," Sarah said, her voice carrying new authority. "I'm delighted to finally meet Nexus Technologies' leadership team." That voice, Chloe's but transformed, the tentative quality replaced by steel wrapped in silk. Even her accent had shifted, Midwest notes replaced by something international. Adrian cleared his throat. "Ms. Chen, welcome. We're honored by Phoenix Global's confidence." Sarah's smile was gracious but revealed nothing. "The honor is mine, Mr. Blackwood. Nexus has built something remarkable." Her gaze swept the room, pausing fractionally on Daniel. "I look forward to understanding how each of you contributed to that success." Daniel forced his lungs to work, corporate training overriding shock. His colleagues began introducing themselves. When his turn came, he stood on unsteady legs. Daniel Morrison, Executive Vice President of Strategic Operations. Sarah's expression remained neutral. Mr. Morrison, I've heard impressive things about your Henderson acquisition work. She knew about Henderson, of course she did. Thank you. It was a team effort. How modest. Her tone carried something, amusement or contempt. Please everyone sit. Sarah remained standing while Catherine set up a presentation. Phoenix Global believes in transparency, so let me be clear about our intentions. We didn't acquire Nexus to dismantle it. We acquired it because we see unrealized potential. Financial projections appeared on screen. Your revenue has been flat for 3 years. Innovation has stagnated. You've lost talent to competitors offering more than generous salaries. Daniel watched her work the room, making eye contact, using pauses for emphasis. When had she learned this? But these aren't capability failures, Sarah continued. They're failures of vision, of values. Nexus has been so focused on protecting what it has, it's forgotten how to reach for what it could become. Adrian shifted. Miss Chen, with respect, our profit margins remain industry-leading. Profits built on cost-cutting and workforce reduction, Sarah interrupted smoothly. The Henderson acquisition Mr. Morrison spearheaded resulted in 600 layoffs. You've been eating your seed corn. Heat rose in Daniel's face. Those had been necessary eliminations. Every decision was made for shareholder value, he heard himself say. Sarah turned to him. Whose shareholders? The venture capitalists who flip stakes every 18 months, she addressed the room again. Phoenix Global has a different philosophy. Sustainable success comes from investing in people, not discarding them. The presentation showed Phoenix Global's other acquisitions, struggling companies now showing remarkable growth, impossible employee satisfaction scores. How? Maria asked skeptically. Sarah smiled. By remembering employees aren't costs to minimize, they're assets to develop. Pure Chloe philosophy wrapped in CEO language. Daniel remembered her arguing these same points years ago, him dismissing them as naive. Over the next 6 months, Sarah announced, we'll be conducting comprehensive review of all operations. Everything will be examined, every contract, every termination, every executive decision. The temperature seemed to drop. Comprehensive. Reviews meant forensic accountants' scrutiny that revealed every cut corner. Change is never comfortable, Sarah concluded, but comfort and growth rarely coexist. I look forward to working with those who embrace our vision. The implicit threat hung in the air. As executives filed out, Sarah called, Mr. Morrison, please stay. I'd like to discuss strategic operations in detail. Daniel felt every eye as colleagues departed. Adrian paused at the door, then left. Soon it was just them and Catherine Liu packing equipment. Sarah moved to the window. For a moment, her posture relaxed, and Daniel saw a ghost of the woman he'd married. It's been a long time, Daniel, she said without turning. Chloe. Sarah, she corrected, facing him. Chloe Morrison died when she realized her husband valued career over marriage. Sarah Chen was born from her ashes. You left me, Daniel said, hating how petulant it sounded. You abandoned our life. I left a man who told me I was worthless so many times I started believing it. Sarah's voice remained conversational, but her eyes were green fire. Who laughed when I talked about making a difference? I never. Stick to your book club, Chloe. Leave business to people who understand it, Chloe. "You'd be homeless without me, Chloe." Each quote landed like a slap. Should I continue? Daniel's mouth worked soundlessly. He remembered saying those things, but they'd been frustration. Not meant to. "Did you ever wonder what happened to me?" Sarah asked. "Even once?" The honest answer was no. "I assumed that I'd failed, that I'd come crawling back." Sarah smiled coldly. "Your attorney made sure I understood I was leaving with nothing. No alimony, no settlement. You didn't fight it. I was too broken to fight. But broken things can be reforged stronger." Catherine cleared her throat. "Ms. Chen, you're 3 o'clock. Sarah nodded, then fixed Daniel with a look. "We'll be reviewing strategic operations extensively. I'm particularly interested in the Employee Relief Fund, the Meridian environmental reports, the Henderson layoff criteria." Each item was another nail in his coffin. She knew everything. "I built this division, and taken far more than you've given," Sarah interrupted. "But unlike you, I believe in fair severance packages." She headed for the door, pausing for one final blow. "Oh, and Daniel? That house in Bellevue on the lot where our old home stood. I drive by sometimes. Impressive how completely you erased our life together. Almost as impressive as how completely I'm about to erase yours." The door closed, leaving Daniel alone with ghosts and ruins. He remained in the boardroom several minutes before returning to his office. Patricia looked concerned as he passed. "Hold my calls," he managed. Daniel poured 3 fingers of Macallan from his bottom drawer. The whiskey burned, grounding him. He needed to think. His computer chimed. Email from Sarah Chen marked "Confidential Strategic Operations Review Timeline." A forensic audit team would begin tomorrow. All department heads would be interviewed. Historical decisions examined for alignment with Phoenix global values. At the bottom, a scanned note. "I learned from the best, Daniel. You taught me that emotions are weakness and information is power. Thank you for the lessons." Kevin Chen entered without waiting. "Dan, we need to talk. That relief fund. Not now." "Yes, now." Kevin activated the white noise generator. "Friend at the SEC called. There's been an inquiry. Anonymous tip about executive compensation irregularities." Daniel's blood chilled. "When?" 3 months ago. Right when Phoenix started due diligence." Kevin leaned against the desk. "They know. This isn't due diligence. It's evidence gathering." The full scope crystallized. Sarah hadn't just bought Nexus for revenge. She'd orchestrated a perfect trap. "We need lawyers," Kevin said. Daniel nodded numbly. "Use outside counsel. Keep it quiet." After Kevin left, Daniel stared at a photo on his credenza. Him shaking hands with the governor at a charity gala. Successful, respected, untouchable. His phone rang. "Adrian, my office. Now." Adrian stood with his back to the door. "Sit. Tell me about your history with Sarah Chen." Daniel considered lying. But what was the point? "She's my ex-wife, left 10 years ago." Adrian turned slowly. "Your ex-wife? And you didn't think to mention this?" "I didn't know. She went by Chloe Morrison. Built a billion-dollar empire specifically to destroy you." Adrian laughed bitterly. 6 months of negotiations. Every meeting she asked about corporate culture, executive accountability. I thought she was doing due diligence. She was building a case. "We can fight this. With what standing? She owns us." Adrian rubbed his temples. The irregularities your division covered up. She has it all. If we fight, she releases it. You knew about the relief fund? Adrian's look was withering. I'm the CEO. Of course I knew, because you assured me risk was minimal. It was minimal. Until your ex-wife spent 10 years preparing revenge. Adrian stood. Clear out your office. You're done. Daniel shot up. You can't fire me. I have a contract, which includes a morality clause. Adrian moved to the door, revealing security guards outside. Congratulations, Daniel. You succeeded yourself right out of a job. The guard stepped forward. Mr. Morrison, we'll escort you to collect your personal items. As Daniel was led through the executive floor he'd ruled for 5 years, he saw faces in doorways, some sympathetic, others satisfied. Patricia wouldn't meet his eyes. In his office, Daniel mechanically packed personal items into boxes security provided. Awards, photos, expensive accessories proclaiming success, all fitting into 3 cardboard boxes. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. A photo appeared. His old house, the modest rambler where he and Chloe had started together, where they'd planted an apple tree to celebrate his first promotion. The message read, "You were right about one thing, Daniel. I wouldn't have survived without you. Your cruelty taught me strength. Your selfishness taught me strategy. Your betrayal taught me patience. Thank you for the education." As security escorted him to the parking garage, Daniel Morrison finally understood the price of teaching someone that power was all that mattered. The Hampton Inn near SeaTac Airport was far from the Four Seasons suites Daniel was accustomed to. But with corporate cards cancelled and assets under legal review, the modest room would suffice. He sat on the bed, laptop open, watching Phoenix Global's announcement. Sarah addressed reporters with perfect poise. Phoenix Global believes in accountability at every level. We're implementing governance structures prioritizing ethical leadership. A reporter raised his hand. Ms. Chen, there are rumors of significant executive changes. Sarah smiled diplomatically. We're evaluating all positions to ensure alignment with our values. Daniel almost laughed. Natural transitions. His phone rang. Marcus Webb, longtime headhunter. Daniel heard about Nexus. Unfortunate, but your talent is undeniable. Not now, Marcus. Actually, now is exactly when you should talk, words getting around about creative accounting issues. My clients need to know what they're dealing with. The corporate gossip network moved at light speed. It's complicated. Always is. But you need to control the narrative before call waiting beeped. Kevin Chen, I have to go. Daniel switched calls. Kevin? They froze my accounts. Kevin's voice was panicked. Personal accounts, how is that even legal? Slow down. What happened? The forensic team found the trail. Vendor kickbacks, shell companies. They're treating it as embezzlement. A pause. My lawyer says they're building a criminal case. She's not just firing us, Dan. She's destroying us. After Kevin hung up, Daniel stared at his laptop. Sarah had moved on to discussing Phoenix Global's plans, increased benefits, profit sharing, a foundation for displaced workers. Everything Chloe had once suggested. His email chimed from sarah@phoenixglobal.com, subject, an opportunity for redemption. Daniel, despite everything, I don't believe people are irredeemable. Phoenix Global is hosting a symposium next week on ethical leadership in technology. Former executives who've faced setbacks are invited to share experiences. This is not a trap. Consider it a chance to salvage something from the wreckage. Full immunity from Phoenix Global's legal actions will be granted to participants who speak honestly. The choice is yours. Sarah. Daniel read it 3 times, searching for the hook. But the offer seemed genuine, more than he deserved. He opened a FEE job search site. Each listing mocked him. Proven ethical leadership required. Impeccable reputation essential. His phone buzzed. Second ex-wife. Saw the news. P.S. Your alimony check bounced. Daniel poured a minibar drink and returned to Sarah's press conference. A reporter asked about her background. Sarah's expression softened. 10 years ago, I found myself with nothing but hard-earned lessons about what not to do. I had 2 choices: let bitterness consume me or use that knowledge to build something better. Every Phoenix company represents values I believe in. Success doesn't require sacrificing integrity. Is it true you have personal history with Nexus executives? Sarah's smile didn't waver. The tech world is small, but Phoenix Global's decisions are based on professional merit and ethical standards. Personal history is irrelevant if someone demonstrates genuine commitment to our values. Daniel noticed the if, another email from James Worthington. Dan, review team found the Henderson files. All of them, including the ones you told me to delete. They're calling us in tomorrow. I'm going to tell the truth. I have a family. I'm sorry. Daniel lay back on the uncomfortable bed. He thought about the night Chloe left, finding her side empty. That note. I'm choosing to believe I'm worth more than you think I am. He'd crumpled it, called her dramatic. Now she owned an empire, and he was hiding in an airport hotel. Unknown number calling. He answered, Mr. Morrison? Catherine. Liu from Phoenix Global. Ms. Chen asked me to follow up on her email. The symposium offer is genuine, but we need an answer by tomorrow. Why offer me anything? She said hatred is exhausting, and she's too busy building the future to remain trapped in the past. But the offer expires tomorrow because, quote, Daniel never could recognize a second chance if it didn't come with a corner office. The words stung with truth. I'll think about it. Mr. Morrison, she wanted me to tell you the apple tree is still standing. The line went dead. Daniel stared at his reflection in the dark window. The apple tree from their old house. She'd kept it. For the first time in 10 years, Daniel Morrison began to consider he'd been wrong about more than just his ex-wife's potential. Daniel sat in the conference room at Steinberg & Associates, his attorney Margaret Walsh reviewing documents that seemed to multiply by the minute. They've been thorough, Margaret said grimly. This isn't corporate review, Daniel. This is a systematically built case going back years. She slid a folder across. Email printouts, financial records, memorandums, many in his handwriting. The Employee Relief Fund alone could result in federal charges, Margaret continued. Wire, fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, potential exposure of 15 to 20 years. But everything was technically legal, Margaret interrupted. You created a charitable fund that funneled money to executive bonuses through vendor contracts. You secretly controlled. That's fraud. She produced another document. The Henderson acquisition. You manipulated termination lists to eliminate employees close to pension vesting, and Meridian, destroying evidence of contamination, is obstruction of justice. Daniel stared at evidence of his corporate life laid bare. Each decision had seemed reasonable, pursuing quarterly targets. How did she get all this? Margaret leaned back. Phoenix Global hired Kendra Zhao 3 years ago. The name hit like a blow. Kendra Zhao was legend in corporate forensics. Your ex-wife has been building this case for 3 years, Margaret said. This isn't revenge. It's a military campaign. Daniel's phone buzzed. Adrian, they found Cayman accounts. Prepare for federal indictments. What are my options? Daniel asked. Take the symposium offer. Full immunity from Phoenix Global is better than what the FBI will offer. Cooperate, show remorse, maybe avoid prison. Maybe. You stole millions through schemes enriching you at employee expense. Unless Phoenix Global chooses not to pursue charges or share evidence. The implication was clear. Sarah held his future. That evening, Daniel composed and deleted emails to Sarah. How did you apologize for a decade of dismissiveness? Finally, I'll participate in the symposium. Thank you. D response within minutes. Conference Room A, Phoenix. Global Offices, Thursday 2nd p.m. Come prepared to speak truth. S. Thursday arrived grey and drizzling. Daniel stood outside Phoenix Global's building, a converted Georgetown warehouse managing to look both industrial and sophisticated. Through glass, he saw open floor plans, standing desks, living walls. The receptionist checked him in without judgment. Conference Room A, 3rd floor. Others are already gathered. Others. Daniel hadn't considered he wouldn't be alone. The conference room held 20 people, mostly men, wearing expressions of mingled shame and defiance. Daniel recognized several, former executives from Phoenix Acquisitions. Sarah entered at 2 p.m. with Catherine Liu and a stenographer. Simple grey suit conveying authority and approachability. Thank you for accepting this invitation, she began. What we're doing today is unusual. Instead of simply terminating and prosecuting, we're offering a different path. A presentation appeared. Phoenix Global believes ethical failures are rarely individual. They're systemic. Today we ask you to help us understand and change those systems. Former Portland CFO raised his hand. What exactly do you want? Truth, Sarah replied. Speak honestly about pressures faced, decisions made, justifications used. In return, Phoenix Global won't pursue legal action and will provide neutral references. That's it? We're also asking you to participate in our business ethics program. Share your stories with current executives, students. Turn failures into learning opportunities. The room stirred uneasily. Public admission went against every corporate instinct. I won't pretend this is easy, but consider alternatives. Federal investigations, legal bills, prison. We're offering a chance to transform your worst professional moments into something valuable. Catherine distributed agreements. Take your time. This is binding. Daniel read the document. Sign and publicly admit every scheme. Don't sign. Face legal consequences. Around him, executives muttered. The Portland CFO signed first, handshaking. Others followed. Daniel looked up to find Sarah watching. For a moment, their eyes met. He saw something unexpected. Not triumph, but hope. He signed. The next 3 hours were the most difficult of Daniel's life. One by one, executives told stories, small compromises leading to larger ones, pressure to meet impossible targets. When Daniel's turn came, he spoke more honestly than he had in years. About the relief fund, Henderson, Meridian. How each decision seemed logical in isolation but formed patterns of callousness. I told myself I was being strategic, he said, voice rough. That emotions were weakness, that caring about individuals prevented necessary decisions. He paused. I never asked whose greater good, always mine. Sarah remained silent throughout, taking notes. When the last executive finished, she stood. Thank you. Your honesty today is the first step in breaking cycles that led to these failures. Phoenix Global will honor our agreement. As the room emptied, Sarah called, Mr. Morrison, a moment, please. Daniel waited as others filed out, some nodding in solidarity. When they were alone, except for Catherine, Sarah moved to the window. That couldn't have been easy, she said without turning. It was necessary, Daniel replied, surprised to mean it. Sarah turned. Do you know what the hardest part of the last 10 years was? Not building Phoenix Global, not acquiring capital. It was letting go of anger, choosing to build something positive rather than just tear down what hurt me. Why did you choose to build? Because destruction is easy, Daniel. Any fool with a match can burn down a house. It takes vision to build something better. She moved toward the door. The apple tree, by the way, it gives fruit now. Took years of careful tending, but the harvest is worth it. As she left, Daniel stood alone, understanding finally that Sarah Chen hadn't just built a business empire. She'd built a monument to everyone told they weren't enough. 3 weeks later, Daniel received an unexpected call from Maria Santos. Dan, we need to talk. Can you meet at Pike Place? He found Maria at a corner table showing signs of strain. Thanks for coming. I wasn't sure you would. Professional courtesy. How are things at Nexus? Maria laughed bitterly. Phoenix Global is interviewing every executive. They know everything, not just about you, every shortcut, every buried report. And I'm scared. I can't afford to lose this job, but I can't afford federal charges either. Daniel recognized the desperation. What do you want from me? Advice. You got immunity. How? I told the truth. All of it. Maria flinched. The Meridian reports. I helped bury those. It will come out. Sarah has everything. The only question is whether you cooperate or get steamrolled. Maria stared at her coffee. My daughter wants to be an environmental lawyer. She's 17, idealistic. What do I tell her when she finds out her mother helped cover contamination? You tell her the truth. That you made terrible choices for what seemed like good reasons. That power corrupts anyone. That the only thing worse than making those choices is refusing to account for them. That afternoon, Daniel received an email from Catherine. Ms. Chen would like to meet regarding a potential opportunity. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Phoenix Global's executive floor was unlike any he'd seen. Open, collaborative. Sarah's office had glass walls defaulting to transparency. She was on a video call, speaking fluent Mandarin. She gestured for him to sit, finishing with warm farewells. Sorry, she said. Singapore team had concerns about a potential acquisition. They're worried about cooked books. Ironic, Daniel said. Sarah smiled slightly. Which brings me to why you're here. She pulled up a presentation. Phoenix Global is launching the Redemption Project. Redemption? We've acquired 12 companies in 3 years. In each, we found systemic ethical failures. Rather than just fire and prosecute, we want to transform corporate culture. And you want me to be a cautionary tale? I want you to help design it. You spent 15 years gaming systems. Who better to help build safeguards? Daniel felt off balance. You're offering me a job, after everything? A chance to use your expertise constructively. Contract position with our ethics team. Review policies, identify exploits, create robust systems. Why trust me? Because you've lost everything you valued and survived. Because you admitted failures without excuse. Because the Daniel Morrison I divorced would never have met Maria Santos out of compassion. You know about that? Georgetown is small. Maria came to see me this afternoon. She's agreed to full cooperation. She mentioned your advice was deciding factor. And if I say no, then you say no. Your immunity remains. This isn't a trap. It's an opportunity, the same opportunity Chloe Morrison never got. Daniel remembered dismissing her ideas about employee wellness. Now Phoenix Global's initiatives were featured in Harvard Business Review. I need to think about it. Take a week. Sarah stood. Daniel, that symposium testimony about emotions being weakness? You were wrong. Real strength is in connection, lifting others. Harder path, but the view from the top is better when you didn't climb over corpses. Leaving Phoenix Global, Daniel passed through their employee area. Workers collaborated over lunch. A meditation room offered quiet space. Everything Nexus hadn't been. His phone buzzed. James Worthington. Heard about your Phoenix meeting. Former Nexus Survivors Club tonight. You in? Daniel typed yes without hesitation. The bar in Fremont was deliberately unpretentious. Daniel found James at a corner booth with Kevin Chen and 2 other Nexus casualties. The prodigal son arrives, Kevin said without malice. How's everyone? Daniel asked. Consulting, James said. Small firms but honest work. Teaching, another added. Community college business ethics. Kevin shrugged. Still sorting things out. Wife's working now. She loves reminding me how I complained about her little non-profit job. They drank. In companionable silence, former masters of the universe reduced to ordinary men. She offered me a position, Daniel said. Sarah, working on corporate ethics. The table exchanged glances. And? James prompted. Part of me thinks it's fitting punishment. Part wonders if it's another form of control. Or maybe, Kevin said, it's what you told Maria. A chance to help others make better choices. When did you get philosophical? When I explained to my kids why Daddy wasn't going to the big office anymore. My daughter asked if I was a bad person. Try answering that to a 7-year-old. They talked until closing. As they parted, James clapped Daniel's shoulder. Take the job. If she's offering redemption, grab it. Driving back, Daniel thought about transformation, about apple trees bearing fruit, about second chances offered by those with every right to withhold them. He pulled over and emailed, I accept your offer. When do I start? Daniel. Response, quickly. Monday, 8 a.m. Welcome to Phoenix Global. Sarah. 6 months into his contract, Daniel had settled into rhythm. His Wallingford apartment was modest but honest. He'd even started an herb garden, something Chloe had always wanted. The work was challenging, reviewing policies to identify exploits. Every loophole closed was one he'd once used. Every safeguard protected against his former self. Morrison, conference room in 5, Catherine called. Daniel found Sarah with unfamiliar executives, uncharacteristically tense. We have a situation, she began. Marcus Sterling is attempting hostile takeover of Phoenix Global. The name hit hard. Marcus Sterling, Adrian's former partner, corporate raider who made Daniel's tactics look benign. He's been acquiring shares through shell companies, Sarah continued. Already controls 12%. Claims our social experiment policies destroy shareholder value. 12% isn't enough, an executive said. He's calling for emergency shareholder meeting. positioning himself as savior who will restore traditional practices. Daniel felt a chill. He knew Marcus's playbook. Slash and burn, extract value, leave shells behind. "What's our defense?" Catherine asked. "That's why you're here. We need to understand every angle he might exploit." Sarah's eyes found Daniel, especially from someone who thinks like him. After others left, Sarah asked Daniel to stay. "You know him. Not friends, but yes. Marcus tried hiring me once, said I was wasted under Adrian's soft leadership. What stopped you?" "The numbers didn't work. Marcus burns through companies too fast. I was selfish, not suicidal." Sarah moved to the window. "He's targeting Phoenix Global because of me. Because a woman who left with nothing shouldn't run $1 billion company. He's targeting you because you're successful. Marcus can't stand anyone having what he doesn't. Can we stop him? Maybe. But fighting Marcus means getting dirty. He doesn't follow rules. You'll have to decide if winning is worth becoming what you fought against." "I won't become him. Or you. The old you." "Then you need different strategy. Marcus expects corporate warfare. Give him something else." 2 days later, Phoenix Global announced unprecedented transparency. Every dollar of compensation, every decision, publicly available. The business media exploded. Transparency at this level was unheard of. Within hours, the website crashed from traffic. Daniel watched from his desk. The transparency had been his idea. Marcus hated scrutiny. Phone rang. Unknown number. "Morrison, you stupid bastard." Marcus Sterling's voice was silk over steel. "I know this was your idea." "Hello, Marcus. Exposing your books won't stop me. I'll paint it as desperation. Maybe. Or maybe people are tired of corporate leaders treating businesses like personal piggy banks. Because your ex-wife says so? The cuckold working for the woman who left him. Tell me, does she make you fetch coffee? Actually, we have excellent machines, self-serve, very egalitarian. I'm going to destroy her company. You'll have front row seat." The line went dead. Daniel immediately went to Sarah's office. She was on video but waved him in. "Marcus just called. He knows about our history. He's going to use it." Sarah unmuted, briefly to excuse herself. "How?" "Corporate intelligence, or Adrian told him out of spite. He'll paint Phoenix Global as vanity project, you as emotional, me as..." "Exactly what I am. What you were. Emotions channeled into purpose. That's power. Every company we've acquired has increased profitability, employee satisfaction up, innovation breaking records. That's not revenge, that's results. Marcus won't. Care if he creates compelling narrative. Then we create better one." The next week showcased strategic communication mastery. Phoenix Global released employee testimonials, community impact studies, innovation showcases. Former executives from Daniel's symposium spoke publicly about transformation. But the killing blow came unexpectedly. Adrian Blackwood called a press conference. Looking older, smaller, the former Nexus CEO delivered stunning words. "Marcus Sterling is attempting to take Phoenix Global using tactics that nearly destroyed Nexus. I should know, I enabled them for years." He paused, struggling. "I was wrong. Sarah Chen represents a better way. I urge shareholders to reject Sterling's takeover." Daniel watched from Phoenix offices, surrounded by colleagues who'd become friends. Spontaneous applause erupted when Adrian finished. "Did you know?" Daniel asked Sarah. She shook her head, looking surprised. "He called yesterday for data about Nexus integration. I thought he was job hunting." "Maybe he was," Catherine suggested. for his soul. The shareholder meeting arrived like a reckoning. The auditorium was packed, media covering every moment. Marcus Sterling arrived with lawyers and bankers, silver hair and dark suit projecting inevitability. Sarah entered alone, wearing simple blue, something Chloe might have worn years ago. The symbolism wasn't lost. Marcus presented first, argument polished. Phoenix Global left money on the table with social experiments. Shareholders deserved maximum returns, not feelings. He could deliver 20% higher profits within 2 years. How? Sarah asked during her turn. By firing 40%, cutting benefits, strip mining innovation for quarterly gains. She showed Phoenix Global's growth. Mr. Sterling promises 20% in 2 years. We've delivered 30% in 3, while improving lives. Pretty words, Marcus countered. But business requires hard choices. Your ex-husband understood that. Murmurs ran through the E-Zoom crowd. The personal attack everyone expected. Sarah smiled. Yes, let's discuss my ex-husband. Daniel Morrison works with Phoenix Global now, designing ethical frameworks. He's proof people can change, that redemption is possible. Of course, that requires admitting you need redemption. You hired him out of pity, Marcus sneered. A broken man who had courage to admit mistakes, Daniel said, standing from his seat. He hadn't planned to speak, but Marcus's tone sparked old anger. More than you've ever done, Marcus. How many companies destroyed? Lives ruined for percentages? Morrison, Marcus's composure cracked. Still playing white knight? Who built an empire while you destroyed them? Daniel continued walking forward. The difference between Phoenix Global and your approach? They create value. You extract it. He reached the front, standing between Sarah and Marcus. I spent 15 years thinking like you, made me rich and empty, cost everything that mattered. So yes, I work for my ex-wife. Yes, I fetch my own coffee. And yes, I'm happier than ever with a corner office built on misery. The auditorium erupted. Marcus tried regaining control, but the narrative had shifted. This wasn't profits versus responsibility anymore, it was two visions of business itself. When votes tallied, Phoenix Global's leadership retained by significant margin. Marcus left without comment, takeover defeated thoroughly. As the auditorium emptied, Sarah found Daniel in the lobby. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Daniel looked at her, really looked for the first time. I spent 10 years telling myself you were weak for caring, but you were strong enough to leave, build, return with forgiveness I didn't deserve. That's not weakness, that's strength I'm still learning. Sarah studied him. The apple tree. Would you like to see it? I kept the old house, turned it into a community center for entrepreneurship. But the tree's still there. Daniel felt something shift. I'd like that. They left together, not as husband and wife, not enemies, but two people who'd learned that sometimes the greatest victory isn't destroying those who hurt you, but building something better from ruins. Sometimes stories end with redemption. The old Greenwood house looked smaller. The Rambler where they'd started had become the Chen Center for Entrepreneurship. A sign read, "Building dreams, one business at a time." Sarah led him through rooms once holding their furniture, now meeting spaces and computer labs. Entrepreneurs worked at shared desks. We focus on underserved communities, Sarah explained. People with ideas but no traditional access. 60% have successful businesses after 2 years. Daniel paused at the kitchen pass-through where Chloe left his dinners, now a coffee bar for networking. This must have cost a fortune. Investment, not charity. These businesses hire locally, create opportunities. Ripple effects multiply, she smiled. You taught me that. Look for multiplier effect. I just apply it to people. They stepped into the backyard. The apple tree stood tall, heavy, with fruit. Garden beds surrounded it, tended by volunteers. A plaque read, "Growth requires both strong roots and room to reach." You've done well by it, Daniel said quietly. It nearly died the second year, Sarah admitted. I didn't know about pruning, soil, pests. Had to learn everything from scratch. But that's the thing about starting over. You learn what you never would if everything had been easy. They sat on a bench. Daniel could hear entrepreneurs inside discussing plans. When did you decide to come back? To buy Nexus? Sarah considered. 5 years ago, in Singapore, closing an acquisition. The CEO reminded me of you. Brilliant, driven, convinced caring was weakness. Watching him pack, I realized I wasn't angry anymore, just sad. For him, you, everyone trapped in that mindset. So you decided to save us? I decided to offer a different path. What people do with that offer is their choice. She handed him an apple. You chose to change. That wasn't my doing. He took a bite, crisp, sweet with tartness. I destroyed lives, Sarah. The work now doesn't erase that. No, but dwelling on past harm without preventing future harm is another form of selfishness. She stood. Come, there's more. The converted garage was now glass-walled conference space. Inside, Maria Santos led a workshop. She's teaching? Daniel asked. Business ethics in practice. Volunteers twice monthly. Says teaching forces her to examine choices constantly. Keeps her honest. They watched Maria engage with passion, young professionals listening intently. She's good, Daniel noted. People who failed and learned make best teachers. They understand pressure, rationalization, the slide into compromise. That's why your Phoenix work matters. Your proof loopholes tempt real people. A young woman approached Sarah with business plan questions. Daniel watched Sarah shift into mentor mode, offering insights without dictating. You enjoy this, he observed. More than running a billion-dollar company, but one enables the other. She checked her phone. Board call in an hour. Marcus rattled investors. Will there be others? Probably. Success attracts predators, especially when challenging their worldview. She looked at him directly. Daniel, your contract ends in 6 months. You'll have choices, continue with us, pursue other opportunities, maybe start something yourself. You firing me? I'm freeing you. From obligation, guilt, whatever you think you owe. If you stay, I want it because you believe in what we're building, not because you're atoning. Daniel felt something loosen. And if I go? Then you go with blessing and genuine recommendation. You're not the man who gamed every system. That man is as dead as Chloe Morrison. They stood watching entrepreneurs work on dreams that might change communities or fail spectacularly. The shareholder meeting, Daniel said. When I stood, that wasn't planned. I know. I meant what I said. About being happier. He struggled for words. I thought power meant control, taking. You showed it. Could mean empowering, giving. That's a gift, Sarah. She smiled. And he saw Chloe. Not the broken woman who left, but the idealist who believed business could be better. We gave each other gifts. Yours just took longer to unwrap. Her car arrived. As she moved to leave, Daniel called, "The apple. Pie with cinnamon and lattice crust. Do you still bake?" Sarah paused. Haven't in years, too busy building empires. But maybe it's time. Some things are worth preserving. As the car left, Daniel stood outside the center that was once home. Inside, people built futures on the past's foundation. The apple tree continued patient growth. He thought about paths, the one to corner offices and empty victories, and the current one, uncertain but honest. Sarah was right. 6 months to decide not who he'd been or owed, but who to become. For the first time, that felt like a choice worth making carefully. Next morning, Daniel found a small box on his desk. Inside, wrapped in parchment, was apple pie. Perfect lattice crust. Cinnamon scent transporting him to Sunday mornings in their old kitchen, a note in Sarah's handwriting. Some recipes improve with age and experience. Thank you for reminding me. Daniel ate slowly, savoring each bite. Around him, the compliance team protected companies from predators like Marcus Sterling, like he'd been. His phone buzzed. James. Heard about the meeting, you standing up. To Sterling is all over LinkedIn. Proud of you. Maria. Saw you at the center. Maybe co-teach a session. From corner office to conscience. Think about it. Daniel looked at the empty plate, then at his work, reviewing compensation structures for abuse. 6 months ago, he'd have designed those vectors. Now he dismantled them. He opened a new document. Recommendations for ethical executive compensation. Comprehensive, using every trick to prevent them. His masterclass in what not to do transformed into doing better. 5 years passed like seasons turning. Daniel's consulting firm, Ethical Edge Analytics, had grown from solo venture to respected practice, helping corporations eliminate structures encouraging unethical behavior. Clients ranged from startups to Fortune 500 companies. Tonight, he stood backstage at University of Washington's Foster School of Business, reviewing notes for the annual Chen Leadership Lecture, The Economics of Redemption. Through curtains, he saw Sarah in the front row, carrying quiet confidence of someone who'd proven their point. Phoenix Global had become a case study taught worldwide. 2 minutes, Mr. Morrison, the stage manager said. Daniel nodded, thinking about the journey. Here, after his Phoenix contract ended, starting his own firm had surprised everyone, including himself. Please welcome founder of Ethical Edge Analytics and author of The Corruption of Success, Daniel Morrison. Applause was warm, genuine. Daniel took the stage, looking at hundreds of future leaders. He spotted Maria Santos, now Chief Ethics Officer at a major tech company. James Worthington sat near back, having built successful sustainable business consultancy. Good evening. 5 years ago, I sat in a hotel room with 3 boxes containing remnants of a career built on stepping stones of others' dreams. Today, I'll discuss how losing everything became foundation for work that matters. He showed his trajectory from Nexus through Phoenix acquisition to current work. Students took notes furiously when he detailed tactics he'd used and how to reform those systems. Traditional curriculum teaches maximizing shareholder value, but rarely asks which shareholders, what time frame. At what cost to stakeholders without shares, but whose lives are shaped by corporate decisions? A student raised her hand. Critics argue Phoenix's model only works with patient capital and unique leverage. How do we implement ethics in companies? Driven by quarterly earnings? Daniel smiled. Excellent question. Sarah? Sarah stood facing the audience. The premise is flawed. It assumes ethical practices and strong earnings are mutually exclusive. Our data shows the opposite. Companies, Investing in people and sustainability consistently outperform. The problem isn't quarterly earnings, it's quarterly thinking. Another student jumped in. But you acquired distressed assets, could remake cultures from scratch. What about transforming healthy companies? Define healthy, Sarah challenged. Profitable, or actually healthy, engaged employees, sustainable practices, positive impact. Too often, we mistake fever for vitality. Q&A continued another hour. Daniel and Sarah tag-teaming responses, creating richer dialogue. Later at reception, Daniel talked with a young entrepreneur who reminded him painfully of his younger self. Ambitious, brilliant, dangerously success-focused. Mr. Morrison, I've read your book. But honestly, if you hadn't been caught, wouldn't you still be running Nexus? Doesn't ethical business only matter if unethical business has consequences? Daniel considered carefully. You're right, consequences matter. But you're thinking small. Consequences aren't just legal or financial. They're personal. I gained a corner office, lost a marriage, built reputation, destroyed relationships, accumulated wealth, bankrupted my soul. He gestured towards Sarah mentoring female entrepreneurs. My ex-wife left with nothing, built an empire. I took everything, ended with nothing. Consequences were there. I wasn't counting right things. The young man looked skeptical, but thoughtful. As reception wound down, Daniel found himself on the balcony overlooking Lake Washington. Sarah joined him with wine. Good work in there. You've become quite the teacher. Good material. My failures make excellent case studies. They stood in comfortable silence. The Daniel and Chloe from 15 years ago would never have imagined this moment. I have news, Sarah said. Phoenix Global is restructuring, creating a foundation for business ethics education and entrepreneurship. I'll step back from operations to run it. Daniel turned, surprised. Leaving Phoenix? Transitioning? Catherine will make excellent CEO. I've proven what I needed. Now I want multiplication, not growing one company but enabling thousands. You're telling me because the foundation needs advisors, people understanding both temptations and possibilities. She looked at him directly. Interested? Daniel thought about his successful consultancy, speaking engagements, comfortable rebuilt life, all meaningful. But, tell me more. Sarah's eyes lit up, describing comprehensive programs from elementary financial literacy through MBA ethics, incubators in 20 cities, research into sustainable practices, a generation of leaders who wouldn't need to fail before succeeding ethically. We're calling it Rising Tide Foundation because a rising tide lifts all boats, Daniel completed. Very you. Take your time. The foundation launches in 6 months either way. Daniel drove home thinking about cycles and changes. 5 years ago, he'd signed papers admitting every professional sin, now offered a chance to prevent others from committing them. His phone rang. Assistant about a Fortune 100 company wanting ethical edge for major culture transformation. Big money, prestige. Tell them I'll check my calendar. May have conflict. That night, Daniel stood in his apartment looking at Puget Sound. On his desk, a photo from Phoenix Global's anniversary, former enemies turned colleagues working towards something larger. He opened his laptop. Sarah, I'm interested. Let's discuss how ethical edge might support the foundation. Some conditions, but I believe we can find common ground. Again. Daniel response within minutes. Breakfast tomorrow? Pike Marketplace with apple turnovers, 7 a.m.? Daniel smiled. After all these years, she remembered his favorite spot. See you there. Preparing for bed, Daniel reflected on life's strange turns. 15 years ago, he'd had everything he thought he wanted and lost it through blindness. 10 years ago, his ex-wife left with nothing and built an empire on principles he'd mocked. 5 years ago, they'd faced each other as adversaries. Tomorrow, they'd plan a foundation ensuring others didn't need to lose everything to find what mattered. The apple tree still stood, still bore fruit. But seeds had spread beyond that yard, taking root in boardrooms and classrooms. Daniel Morrison pursued success and found failure. Through failure, discovered purpose, and purpose multiplied when shared rather than diminished. The future stretched uncertain, but full of possibility. For a man who once had all the answers, not knowing what came next felt like freedom. And freedom was where real growth began. 5 years later, Rising Tide Foundation. Annual report letter from board co-chairs. Dear supporters, when we launched Rising Tide Foundation 5 years ago, skeptics questioned whether ethical business education could create real change. Today, over 10,000 entrepreneurs have graduated our programs, creating 50,000 plus jobs. Our partnership model, pairing executives who've learned from failures with emerging leaders committed to ethical success, has proven more powerful than imagined. Mentorship between those who've walked difficult paths and those beginning creates wisdom no traditional curriculum could match. This year, we announced the Morrison Chen Fellowship, funded jointly by Ethical Edge Analytics and Phoenix Global. This program provides 100 annual scholarships for students from traditionally excluded backgrounds. To those asking if people can really change, if businesses can balance profit with purpose, we offer ourselves as evidence. 2 people who once epitomized corporate culture's worst now dedicate lives to nurturing its best possibilities. The apple tree in our Greenwood Center has become a symbol. Visitors see proof that with right care, patience, and willingness to grow, even neglected relationships can bear fruit. We see reminder that success isn't reaching the highest branch, but deepening roots and extending shade to others. Thank you for believing business can be force for good, that failure teaches more than success, and redemption isn't just possible, but profitable beyond any balance sheet. The tide is rising. Together, we rise with it. With gratitude, Sarah Chen and Daniel Morrison co-chairs. Rising Tide Foundation PS. Next year's applications now open. We especially encourage those who've stumbled. Sometimes the best teachers have learned the hardest lessons.